What is up, Gas Money Nation? It's Robert and Austin with the Inside Gas Money podcast, and today we have two very special guests for our latest episode in our Gas Money Mentions series. In this series, we interview business owners, entrepreneurs, and professionals to gather insights about their journey and, more importantly, generate valuable learning opportunities for young adults who are passionate about entrepreneurship. Today, we have the pleasure of hosting Anthony Laudadio and Dean Byrd, who have teamed up to begin creating the Jitterz App. Jitterz is a platform designed to create genuine friendships that last, and rather than using swiping or liking other profiles, Jitterz will utilize AI to automatically match users with other like-minded individuals. Anthony and Dean are still in the very first stages of bringing Jitterz to life, which offers an amazing perspective of what it's like to be in the very first stages of creating your very own business. As always, we hope you guys enjoy this episode, get some learning opportunities from it, and if you have a business of your own, always feel free to reach out to us and hop on the podcast yourself. Now, without further ado, let's welcome Anthony and Dean.
I think we both just saw such a need to help people meet people on campus. I personally, I lived in the dorm my freshman year, and it was a great experience for me. I was in the entrepreneurship living learning community, so I knew everyone on my floor, and it was awesome. I'd go out, would come back, and I would know everybody there. We had such a good community. But because of that, I didn't really realize that not everyone has that same experience. A lot of people come to college, they're not friends with their roommates. They don't really like their suite mates, and they just sit in their room. They go to class, they come back and they sit in the room, and they struggle to meet new people on campus. And it wasn't until I left the dorms that I realized that's, it's a real issue. And I had, conversations with people who didn't have such a positive experience like I had. And that just got me thinking that there needs to be something out there to help bridge that gap between people coming onto campus and meeting the first few people, getting that first friend group together. So, I feel like it applies to almost everything in life. It's all exponential. Doing the first step is always the hardest. And for a lot of people, they can't do that first step. Either, social anxiety, nervousness, or just lack of social skills, no matter what it is, but people struggle to make that first step. And so that was really my personal inspiration, was how can we help people make that first step, put themselves out there and help start the process of building a friend group and start the process of finding, your people, so to say, like your group in college.
I love that. And I guess for you guys, are you guys both seniors, or what year are you in school right now?
Yeah, both.
Yeah, we're both seniors. So you guys had the same experience I did, where we came into college. It was right in the middle of COVID, and everything pretty much got shut down. Like for me personally, when I was a freshman here, coming down to Florida State from Michigan, I literally knew nobody here on campus. Like every single person I've met here since freshman year, obviously I'm a senior now, has been because I've had to kind of step out of my comfort zone and talk to new people. And with an app like Jitterz, that would have made it a lot easier. So I love what you guys are doing with it. I feel like it's going to apply to a lot of people in college, kind of bridging that gap where they might not know how to approach people in person. They're really used to social media. They connect with like-minded people and then just go from there. So that's awesome. And then I guess, Dean, what was your inspiration? Yeah, of course.
So my inspiration is like growing up, there was kind of a joke on the football team where I acted like a turtle because I wouldn't poke my head out of the shell. I acted like a turtle with all the football gear on, and I was always so quiet. I didn't talk to anybody. And that was most of my experience in like high school. And I can say, like, especially when the pandemic hit, like I remember my first year in college, I would sit in my room, my dorm room. I liked my dorm roommates and everything, but they would go off and they would go do their events with their friends, and I wouldn't have anyone. I would just be playing Call of Duty all alone. And I wish there was kind of a way to like transverse that and like meet new people, meet the same people, meet people who are also struggling, who are also looking to find and make new relationships. But also like the social anxiety aspect of it is growing up, I've had a ton of the social anxiety. And if I could just go back in time, do something like Jitterz and do that, I feel like I would have had a way better experience in college, way better experience in high school. And I think it honestly would have like changed my whole life. But I am who I am, and I like the way I've gone through my path. So I've honestly I'm very happy where I am now, and I really think that Jitterz could be a next step on helping the next generation, especially with a lot of these kids coming in the COVID pandemic. where a lot of them don't interact with people in the real world. It's all like, oh, I only talk to my friends and I only talk to people I know in my circle, where we want to like have people branch out and make new connections and new relationships.
For sure. And actually, something that we can relate a lot to with gas money is, people doing gas money jobs. I don't know how much Rob has kind of explained it to you, but, it's kind of high school and college kids going around and picking up jobs through our platform to do just residential services at people's homes to make some extra money. So basically with that whole thing, like you were saying, with people not really wanting to talk to other people or struggling to talk to other people, either even at their same age. With us, it's talking to older people and things like that. So it gets over that whole social anxiety aspect. And it's kind of like that first kiss, once you do it once, then it's, that much easier to talk to that next person, or I guess, so to speak, kiss that next person. But with you guys, that's super, that can be super impactful. Because the youth today, like you were saying, is a much different youth than 20 years ago, and we were a much different youth than the 20 years before that. But I think from social media and attention span dwindling and everything like that, it's just gotten to a point where communication skills are also dwindling, and that motivation to meet other people and connect with people and even have that thought process of, maybe this person can either be my friend or be that next step in my business venture or next step in my life. It's not even in their head because they're so caught up in, being nervous about doing that first step. So I think that can really, really impact that, which is awesome, guys.
Yeah, I completely agree. And like you were saying, it's definitely a different generation today. And it seems like a lot of people are very dependent on social media for so many aspects of their lives. And so that was another part of our inspiration too, is like, if we can create some sort of app, something that people can use on their phones, on their computers, something like that, to help bridge that gap into real life, like that's the best place to do it. Because exactly what you're saying, it's just different generation today. The communication skills, aren't necessarily where they used to be. And so if we're able to kind of play into that, if we're able to use an app or something online to help bridge the gap to real life, we thought that'd be the best case scenario for us.
Definitely. So what did that first conversation look like between you guys when you first came up with the idea for Jitterz?
Yeah, so actually we have the same professor, but we were in different classes, like different class periods. And we both had very similar ideas. I think we had little differences in like kind of how we wanted to implement it, but we both had the similar idea. And so our professor actually told us both, they're like, hey, Anthony, you need to go talk to Dean, and Dean, you need to go talk to Anthony. You guys have a very similar idea here. So we just sent each other a text message like, hey, I heard you have a similar idea. Like, you want to go grab some coffee? We went over to the sweet shop.
Yeah, that was a good time.
Yeah. And just kind of, hashed it out a little bit. Like, this is what I was thinking. This is what I was thinking. And it's actually crazy how like similar our ideas were before we even talked to each other at all about it. Like,
we didn't even know each other existed.
Yeah.
We were like, oh, that guy, we have the same idea. What?
Yeah. Like I would give him my rundown of what I wanted the app to look like, and he'd be like, yeah, I agree with that. He was like, but instead of this, I was thinking that. And I was like, yeah, it's genius. But yeah, so like I said, we had the similar ideas, different classes, and then our professor put us together, and we just kind of, hashed it out between ourselves and found the best kind of middle ground to our two ideas.
Yeah, that's crazy how things work out like that. And I guess moving forward too, like just having a partnership in business, at least for Austin and I know from our perspective, we've known each other since high school, and there's a lot of people out there that say like, don't go to business with friends. They say it's not a good thing to do, but from our perspective, since we've known each other so long, it's helped us a lot, just like with that trust aspect, being able to talk to each other. And it seems like in your guys' perspective, like you didn't know each other at all before you got connected for this business, and it definitely seems like you guys with that similar mindset about what you wanted to do, it's kind of like just instantly turn into a friendship and a business partnership at the same time, which is super powerful.
100%.
Yeah,
no, that's cool. And like you guys said, you had the same course. Was that an entrepreneurship class?
It was, yeah.
It was experiences in entrepreneurship with Professor Byrd. Very entertaining man. I enjoy his class very much. I think this is my last semester with him. It's going to be a sad one, but he's very fun and entertaining and very insightful when it comes to like, especially like the new tech style of like entrepreneurship and like focusing on the digital market and trying to tap into like AI and all these new frontiers.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess were you guys both in the entrepreneurial like degree pathway, or both of you? That's cool. How much has that impacted, your decisions now that you're actually kind of, getting into the dirt with actual entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I think I don't know. I feel like it hasn't impacted quite as much as you would think it would, because I think a lot of entrepreneurship, as I'm sure you guys can attest to, is experience based. You have to do it yourself. You kind of have to see what's happening. I think this project that we're working on right now with Jitterz, this few month window of us working on this has given me the most insight to the world of entrepreneurship that I've had in my entire college experience. Because you can learn stuff through books all you want. Like for example, I just got my real estate license recently. I'm working with a broker here in town. But I took all the courses for real estate. It was a 63-hour course. I had to pass a 100-question exam, then pass a state exam. I went through all that. And nothing can really train you for the real world until you're actually dealing with a client one-on-one. You're showing them the house. You're hosting the open houses. You're doing the real things in the industry. And so I think the education kind of gave us like a framework, I would say, especially when it comes to like the accounting side of things and like numbers and things that you can actually teach. But the networking and like doing stuff like this has been the most insightful that the most insight towards the world of entrepreneurship that I think I've ever experienced.
Also,
I completely agree. Go ahead.
Yeah, all the constant pitching, the constant focus is like on getting on the fine details and looking at making sure you have your business plan down to a science, and making sure your financial aspects are secure, and that what to make the right decisions when it comes to like big decisions towards your company's future, towards the ownership, and towards like the state of how it's going to be run, if it's an LLC or if you're going to let a board take over. It's been very, very productive. I enjoy it, but it also has shown me like in a way where you have people you feel like have good ideas and people have bad ideas, but in a way has kind of made me feel better about my idea and like our idea as a whole for Jitterz. And as we grow and like as a company, we see like there's more potential than we even realized.
Definitely. It's really cool seeing that first idea kind of grow into that creation stage, ideation stage. And then now you guys have that framework down, and it sounds like I'm excited to see what you guys can make from it. And just to clarify, right now you got the wireframes done. You're still in the kind of early stages, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. So I was looking over, and Austin and I, we obviously have a tech platform as well with Gas Money. We had no experience at all with coding. We still don't. It's all been outsourced. It's been a pretty crazy process. And like you said, Anthony, like we learned a little bit about just the coding process through frameworks. We looked online, we did research, but nothing can really prepare you for that whole process of actually developing a software, working with people until you actually do it. So in your guys' perspective, what's your plan for getting the app developed? Are you going to do, you're going to outsource it? You're going to do low code, no code? And then are you going to start with a website or start with a mobile app?
Yeah. So I think as of now, we're definitely leaning towards like a low code, no code type approach. Our professor, the same professor we were talking about, Professor Byrd, he was kind of cautioning us towards going straight to outsourcing the coding, because he said it's going to be more expensive than you think it's going to be. And odds are it's not going to look exactly how you want it to look. And that's going to, kind of mess with you. So I think we're probably leaning towards low code, no code at this point. But what was the second part of the question? Was it a two-parter?
Yeah. So if website, mobile app, what's it going to look like in the MVP?
Definitely mobile app is what we're leaning towards. I think that's going to be the most easily accessible for, our target market. Like I said, we want to target, more towards high school seniors, college freshmen, 18 to 20-year-old. That's going to be like our really niche market right there. And so I think mobile app is definitely going to be the way that we go. Eventually a website, but MVP, but I'm saying MVP is definitely going to be through a mobile app.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, that's what most college students use. So I think you guys are doing great with that. And in terms of our experience, I mean, exactly like you said, Dr. Byrd had mentioned, we we were both really new. We didn't know anything about code. And at the time, we really thought the only option was outsourcing. I mean, low code, no code was still, it was probably 4 years ago. So it wasn't as big as it is now, as developed and everything, especially with AI. So we ended up outsourcing it. It was definitely a lot more expensive than we thought. Some parts didn't turn out as well as we thought. So with that low code, no code, I feel like it'll be nice to have that in control. And one thing I'm really interested about is, I know you guys mentioned you're going to be using AI to kind of help match people. Like, are you going to use API with like ChatGPT? What's your plan for that kind of integration?
Okay, so my idea with the integration aspect of AI was to take the user's base of like their personalized settings of whatever data they've input, and to input that into the AI, and the AI would create an icebreaker, conversation guide, and a set of points to continue on the conversation based around that context. The goal is kind of have the AI work as a like holding your hand type teacher on like what you should say, how you can respond, what are some good answers, some good questions, some good things to get the ball rolling. So like the AI can let go. And it's like riding a bicycle almost, where you want to eventually get the wheels turning and them on their own.
Definitely. No, that's
sweet.
awesome.
Is that obviously it's at this stage, it's kind of interesting to talk about, all the functionality and everything. So I'm sure there's some secrecy you guys want to keep with that, which is perfect. I just we've been really looking into AI, trying to, integrate it in just our business operations at this point. We haven't looked at, integrations into our technology yet. But I guess for the future, well, let's step back a little bit. Ever since AI, kind of came out, what has been, both of you can answer this one at a time, but what has been kind of your thought process of what this was, when it came out with GPT-3, I believe, until, what it is now, and then where you guys can see it going in the future, because it sounds like you're really trying to, hit the nail on the head with it and use it as much as you can.
Yeah, I'm personally speaking, I'm not super well versed in AI. Even to this point, I'm not really one to use AI very much. But the way I see it is, at least for the future of companies, and our company included, AI is going to help take those monotonous and tedious tasks that just, it's the same thing over and over again. It's going to help kind of streamline that. For us, I think you said the description of Jitterz is going to be read before all of this, right?
Yeah, so everybody, but you can add content.
I mentioned AI in the description as well, because for us, we're not going to have, any sort of like swiping or liking or disliking functions. It's all going to be automatically matching users using AI technology. So for us, I think it's going to help us to allow for a more seamless experience for our users, to where there's not going to be any sort of, like I said, they're not going to be swiping or liking or anything like that. It's going to be something that's automatically going to be able to recognize, your likes, your dislikes, your hobbies, your interests, things like that, and can automatically match you with other users of those similar interests and dislikes and things like that, if that makes sense. So I think for us personally, that's its biggest advantage to us, is that it's going to take away the active matching process from the consumer and make it all AI driven behind the scenes.
Yeah, and even on platforms like Tinder, I know when you first pitched it to me, I saw you at the Entrepreneurship Expo, and you were explaining how you don't want it to look and feel like a dating app. It's more of, like you said, actually matching people and getting those conversations going on their own. And for people that use Tinder, it's even if you match with somebody, you can match and then never message them. And it sounds like with Jitterz, the point is to get that conversation going and then encourage them to become friends, learn more about each other, and kind of help break that ice almost.
100%. That's what he was kind of explaining too, with the AI functions, where it's going to be little, let's say on my profile, I say that I'm really into the gym, right? I love to work out. And then Robert, you're really into the gym too. And then Austin, you're also really into the gym. For us, you're on the app, and to some people, they could kind of struggle making that into a conversation, when that's when the AI would step in and be like, hey, it could get a little prompt to pop up and be like, hey, Robert, how much do you bench? Or Austin, do you skip leg day? Something like that. That's just something light, to just get the conversation flowing a little bit. And it'll match, it'll be able to identify, the interests that we have in common and kind of take that and run with it. And then eventually, like he was saying, it'll be like training wheels, and after you've talked for, a few days, hopefully you guys can kind of take it and run with it, go meet up in person and go grab a beer at Madison Social or at Township, or, do something in person. You can kind of take the training wheels off and build those connections in real life too.
Yeah, and I see even greater potential too, and I'm sure you guys see the same thing. And this is obviously something to think about, like, as you grow. But have you thought at all about expanding past that college niche as you guys continue to grow? Like, if there's 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds that are looking for people to golf with, kind of stuff along that line.
Yeah. Yes, totally. The only reason why we've started off with college students because, well, first, we are college students. We got to do what we know best. And while we are in this environment, I think it's the best thing to move forward with focusing, because it's a constant flow of people moving in and out. But you are totally right about like how moving forward to different generations, not just Gen Z. We're talking about millennials, Gen Xers, boomers. Like, these people, there are 36% of the population there was an increase in depression and anxiety. This is the population that we're looking to help service in the future, and in a way, get them quicker results, get them quicker relationships, and get them stronger, genuine relationships that aren't entirely facey or like from a Facebook friend group chat or something like that. We're trying to actually provide a good relationship. And my goal is to hopefully like move into the older groups eventually as we move on with Jitterz, and maybe eventually step into the realm of looking at AI and maybe combining it with like therapy, finding a quick response. Because if anyone's gone through therapy, it takes way too long to get into like getting a psychiatrist or a therapist. Too long. If you could get something like that on like a quick haste setup, you could get answers to your questions that are medically backed, but also coming from a database, and you're going out of your way. You aren't going to have to pay a therapist for their time or their hours and such and so on.
Yeah, we have so many different avenues that we could go down. We have to like actually limit ourselves, because
I go crazy with it way too much. So I'm like, wow, we can do this.
Even talking to some of our professors, they'd be like, oh, have you thought about this? Or have you thought about this? Or what if you did this? It's actually insane how many different avenues that we could expand this into. Obviously, like you said, we're starting with this. We're gonna initially target kind of the high school seniors, college freshmen, 18 to like 20, roughly. That's kind of like our niche market initially. But yeah, we've thought about, matching people up with venues, local events that are going on. You can see who else is going to, like, there's 1,000 different ways that we could go down with this. It's actually it's overwhelming, to be honest with you, how many different ideas that we've been branching off with this. It's craziness.
Yeah, I agree. And Austin and I's point of view too, it's the same thing like with any business owner. And this is something we realized after we started Gas Money. It's kind of weird because your whole time you're going through school or you get a job anywhere, you have somebody telling you what to do, and you can't really be you can't be too creative because you got to follow within the guidelines of what tasks they're assigning you, what you need to get done. And it's all about checking those tasks off the checklist. But once you become an entrepreneur like you guys and like us, there's nobody telling you what to do. And it's everything that you want to do for the company with thousands and thousands of options you can go from. It's hard narrowing it down because you do have to pick and choose which features to start out with, which features to use to kind of expand as you continue to grow. And just how's that transition been for you guys? Do you feel like it's definitely been different having that control over what you guys want to do with your company, or just looking at your experiences in school and everything else so far, not having somebody to tell you what to do?
Yeah, I think it's definitely been a transition. We've been very fortunate enough. Our major is incredibly hands-off. Like, it's very, a lot of our professors, a lot of our grades are, discussion based or pitches or participation, things like that. It's a very hands-off major. So we've had a lot of that freedom. But I think, going back to your question, I think the only thing that's really been limiting us in our decisions of what kind of functions we want to add is now that we are actually trying to create the app, we know like how much work goes into making a functional app. Like, it's
how much money for each feature,
yeah,
how much money do you have to pay for that one feature alone? if you don't want to build it by yourself, which will take tens and tens of thousands of hours.
Yeah, that's really, I mean, personally speaking, that's the only thing that's stopping us from being like, let's just do it all at once, because we realize now that
we don't have enough time when you have to do college and work and everything else around your life.
it's very labor intensive for sure.
Yeah, guys. I mean, we every time, obviously this podcast has helped us out with the conversations with, like-minded entrepreneurs. But every time, we have a conversation with them, it's the ideas are endless, which is a blessing and a curse. It has the potential to spread you way too thin and then you get nothing done. So we still do it to this day, and we've been doing it since I was 17 and Rob was 16 in high school. And ever since then, we've learned a lot, but I guess that's, one of our biggest pieces of advice to you guys, to anybody that's listening. It's just at the beginning, it's going to be intimidating. It's going to be overwhelming. All the things that you think about and all the things that you can do with this idea that just stems out in all these different crazy ways. It's awesome. Throw it down on a piece of paper, Google Doc, whatever. And then really just, focus on what needs to be done at the most basic level. And that's what we did at the beginning with our MVP, also because we were outsourcing everything right away. So we also had to be financially educated with the decision. But it was just basing it on what we need to be automated right now, and how can we get there with as little amount of functionality as we can. So it's, that's MVPs are, you really, really hope that they can be as beautiful as possible, but normally they're pretty clunky and gross. But at the end of the day, you got to start somewhere. And if it starts by connecting two people, like you guys, start there and then work backwards, and then you can just add, from there. So that's the coolest part about entrepreneurship. But I feel like what most people from the outside overlook is just how many different ideas and how mentally exhausting that can be. And exhausting in general, because like you guys are saying, you're both doing other things. You have school, Anthony, you're on the right there, right? Well, I guess my right might be the left. Yeah. So you do real estate, and then Dean, you're probably doing a bunch of other stuff. So how has that been now that you're really getting, probably as deep as you have into this project? I guess what are your thoughts and plans now that maybe, you're going to be out of school here in the next few months? So it's like, what are you guys going to do? What have you guys had those conversations? I know those are the most uncomfortable conversations to have, especially in business, but you got to figure it out as quick as possible,
Yeah. So, I mean, personally, like I said, I'm doing real estate right now, so I'm going to continue pursuing that for sure. I think one thing I've learned though with everything I have going on is that the older you get, the less free time you have. It was like when I was a little kid, it was like, I don't know, I just had all the time in the world. I could just do what I wanted whenever I wanted. There's no worries about it. But now that I'm getting older and I'm getting towards that point, like you said, of getting to the point of graduation and that big next step in my life, I'm really starting to realize that every hour of the day really counts. If you're wasting an hour on your phone every day, and that's an hour a day, that's five hours, in a work week, 7 hours a week of your time that you're just throwing down the drain. And so I think something that I've personally been learning, especially at this point in my life, is just time management and the importance of spending your time wisely, and no matter what that looks like. For me, like I said, I'm really into the gym. And like, for me, I feel like I'm mentally most healthy and I'm mentally the most clear when I'm able to get a workout in every day. So for me, that's like 2 hours of my day. That's 2 hours that I'm not working or doing anything technically productive on paper, but I know that for me, it's worth it. And so I gotta find time every day for me to make those 2 hours for me to go to the gym, get a workout in. I don't have time to be sitting around doing nothing. So I think for me personally, time management is something I've really been learning towards the end of my college career. And but after graduation, got to continue real estate. Eventually, I want to open up my own brokerage, and then continue working on this app and hopefully get an MVP out as soon as we can.
Definitely. And then Dean, how about you?
So I'm kind of on the same idea where I'm going to be pursuing a career in sales after college. I've already accepted my job offer. My hope is to with this job is to make enough capital, hopefully, to raise money for Jitterz and get along the tracks, because you have to start somewhere. And I didn't come off from the richest family, so I got to go make some money.
Yeah, exactly. And no, I love it too, because it's one of those things that the time management aspect, I know both of you have had experiences with that. It's tough. Like as you get older, especially in college, that's like the first wake up call is like you have your classes, and then you can do, once you get out of class, like it's your choice if you want to go to the gym, if you want to just waste time on your phone. It's really up to you, because there's nobody really telling you what to do. You're not with your parents anymore, and it can be a hard adaptation for a lot of people. But for you guys, I mean, especially being college students who are just getting into entrepreneurship, was that kind of a difficult change, learning to balance school and entrepreneurship, or how's that adaptation been for both of you?
I don't know. Freshman year, I definitely wasted some time freshman year. I mean, I was just having fun, you know. I wasn't really thinking too much about the future, to be honest with you. I was kind of living in the moment then. But every year, I've definitely been, you know, maturing in that aspect and realizing that you're exactly right. Like, you know, you get out of class and you go home. Your mom's not there to tell you, you know, get off your phone and go do your homework, or, you know, your dad's not there to tell you, like, you know, the grass is getting overdone. You know what I mean? You got to go out there and cut the grass. There's no one there to tell you what to do. And so I think the older I've been getting, the more I've been realizing that it's really, you know, like you said, it's really on yourself to motivate yourself to do something. You know, you're the only person who can make yourself do it at this point. So I think, like I said, like freshman year, I definitely, you know, still learning that lesson freshman year. And every year since then, I've definitely been maturing in that aspect.
Definitely. And we follow this quote. It's there's no mistakes in life ever, only lessons. And we've definitely had a lot of mistakes that we made, both with gas money, just in our personal lives, like different failures we've had. But at the end of the day, as long as you learn from those and remember them and use that for application in the future, that's the best way to learn, is learning from experience, making those mistakes, and continuing to grow from there. And luckily for you guys, I mean, you're still pretty early on in your venture, but there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there who get either discouraged or lose hope in their idea because it doesn't work out at first. And I think finances can be one of the largest things for that. So especially with a tech platform, like it's pretty expensive, and I'm happy you guys are doing the no code version, because that's definitely a lot more affordable than like outsourcing somebody. And we had to learn that the hard way, but it's all a learning process is kind of what I'm trying to get at. So for you guys, kind of transitioning into that financial aspect of the company, have you thought about like applying for any grants or anything like that? I know Florida State has the Innovation Challenge, different micro grants, or are you kind of waiting until you have the MVP built? What's your kind of plan for utilizing like the university's resources? Have you thought about that at all?
Yeah, so there's a micro grant in January, I believe, is the next one that we're gonna try to apply for sure. And I think, kind of going back on what Dean was saying, like, at least for myself, and I think he's the same way, is like we both, you know, have these careers that we're pursuing. And I think, you know, maybe it's a little bit, sorry, someone's trying to get in here.
Oh, you good?
No problem.
Okay, can I have like 5 minutes? Cool. We got to move in like 5 minutes, but
That's all good.
I think you know, maybe it's a little bit optimistic to think, but I mean, hopefully we'll be able to, you know, pursue a career that's going to make us financially stable enough to be able to do a lot of this on our own. You know, ideally, you know, taking a loan out is something that's kind of scary to me personally. You know, I don't have any student debt. I'm debt free in my life, so taking loans out is something I'm not really comfortable with. So hopefully we can both kind of finance this through our own pockets, at least in the beginning stages. Obviously down the road, when it gets to the point where we're, you know, hopefully having, you know, over 1 million users or something like that, you know, maybe it's a different story when we get to that point. But at least in the beginning days, I think we're both kind of planning on funding this out of our own pockets.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And then, do you guys need to move right now? Do you want to do that now?
Yeah,
or
do you mind
we
actually? I
get
think
one
someone
more
has this
question?
room reserved.
Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead and move.
No, you're
real
good.
quick.
This
Yeah.
is a first.
Yeah.
A nature
Perfect.
pod.
And then I guess,
Yeah.
yeah, this is outside pod. No, I like it. And then,
Yeah.
so our next question, and then before you answer, like next, we're just going to ask about like monetization on the app. If there's any plans for that in the future, if you're doing that now.
So with monetization, we've kind of like worked with tinkering with like the idea of maybe using a premium version to provide more features like user verification and so on. That's where we're trying to find value. We were also thinking of doing towards like what we were talking about, like
similar events is if we were to advertise venues, like specific venues, like locally, we would take like something like Township or Madso and try and get them to do a deal where we would sell, or we would sponsor them with like maybe a banner, or we do a pop-up events or recommendations for their location for the app when we do like an auto-generated like recommendation for like a conversation or something like that. Yeah, and I think obviously the initial, like the goal of the app is to have people meet up in person. Obviously, like it's, you know, you meet people online to then go hang out in person. And so I think a good way for us to monetize could be, you know, you're talking with people online, and then Township, Madso, you know, some sort of local venue could advertise on our app and be like, you come in, you know, with your friends that you met on Jitterz, show us the Jitterz app and 10% off your bill or whatever. You know what I mean? Something like that, where I think there's definitely the potential to have local venues advertising their place as a place for the first initial meetup, at least. And then, yeah, from there, obviously we talked about like a premium version. We've tossed around a few ideas, but I think partnering with local venues is going to be the first way that we go to monetization. But yeah, that's something that we're going to have to play that by ear as we go and kind of see what, you know, what the world looks like at that point.
Definitely.
Yeah, because with the monetization part, that's what we've you know, we struggled with to kind of figure out where it would be. We were lucky because we were kind of just inspired off of all the other gig platforms, you know, the Ubers, the DoorDashes, those different companies, and mainly they're like at the base level, there's just a percentage fee, like a commission based monetization. But at the same time, you know, with you guys just kind of jumping around in my head, it would be hard to justify probably at the beginning charging a subscription right off the get-go just to be able to use it. I mean, it all depends on where the functionality goes and how much value you can provide with a potential tier system, like you were saying, some type of a premium and a starter pack type thing. But yeah, you know, that's going to be the fun part, is like figuring out, you know, business only is business if you know, you make enough money to keep the business going. So it's like, and then how do we justify that, and how do we justify charging the users, or like you were saying, potentially the venues, which would also be users. So yeah, that'll be another piece of the business that you guys are going to have a million ideas, but then, you know, focusing on what's going to be the most justifiable. So
yeah, I think in a weird way, it's like this issue of monetization though is kind of proven, at least to myself, that this is genuinely something that I'm passionate about, something I care about, because I'm like making myself think of ways that I can make money off this idea, which, you know, sounds backwards. You know, you think of someone, they start a company or they start a business, it's like the first thing is like, how can I monetize this? You know, how successful can I be? How much money can I make doing this? And like, this was literally something that we started talking about like 2 weeks ago, after months of brainstorming and doing all the back, you know, the wireframe and everything like that. We like just recently started having the conversation of like, how the hell are we going to make money on this? You know what I mean? Like, how do we make money on this idea? So it's definitely something that we're going to have to, like you said, it's definitely something that we're going to have to learn, and we're going to have to, you know, maybe change our ideas day by day until we get to that golden idea.
At the beginning, though, you mentioned passion, and that's like a huge thing that we focus on and had a lot of conversations about, because with, you know, with entrepreneurship, you guys have probably already heard this, and we can't say it enough, but like, if that's your only focus is making money, you know, you're going to have a very hard time. You have to provide the value, and that money will follow. It's just, you know, providing the right amount of value to be able to justify the monetization. So that's great that you guys are already kind of in that mindset, and you didn't have to, you know, force yourself to think, you know, the money will come. You guys were already building, and you had the passion for it. And then, you know, now you're starting to think about it, but that's you guys are in the right spot, I guess, with the passion for the company, for the idea, and just passion to provide a great experience for people and give them value, you know, going into college or at some certain communication point in their life. So what did you have to say, Rob? Sorry for cutting you off.
Oh, no, you're good. I was just going to say, Austin and I definitely relate a lot to that, because right now with Gas Money, I mean, we're still in the pretty early stages. We're on our version 2. We did a lot of beta testing in Michigan, and our next goal is to bring it down to Florida. But all the money that we've like made from our fees, we've just put right back into the business, and we haven't like made any money personally from this. We've actually probably invested more money from our own earnings doing jobs with gas money, mowing lawns and stuff like that than we've wanted to. But it just comes down to that passion, like I said. And a lot of people who aren't entrepreneurs, a lot of them think that's crazy. But in our cases, it sounds like you guys, I mean, you're really truly building a startup where it has the potential to scale, it has the potential to positively impact millions and millions of people. And I think at the end of the day, like that fact that you have that ownership and that ability to help connect people, like completely outweighs trying to make money at first. It's like investment, you know, you're putting in all the work right now. You're doing meetings, you're ideating, you're doing all of these things, not getting paid for it. And a lot of people think that's crazy, but in your perspective, does it even feel like work, or is it more just fueled by that passion that you know what's going to come out of it in the long run?
It definitely didn't feel like work for a while. I think it's starting to feel like work now that we're really getting down to the, you know, the coding and a lot of the
Now the grind
like the behind the scenes stuff. First, it was all, you know, fun and games. Like, let's go meet at the sweet shop, have a coffee, and just throw ideas at each other. Like that's easy. That's fun. It's like a conversation. But now that we're really getting down to the nitty gritty, it's starting to feel a little bit more like work. But I mean, it's not a bad thing necessarily, but it definitely is starting to feel a little bit more like we're really doing some real work here instead of just ideating and kind of having fun. Like when I developed all the interface for the app, like that was kind of fun. You know, I just put on some music. I kind of designed it like what I wanted to look like, and it was kind of fun to do it. But like I said, now it's, at least, you know, personally, now it's starting to feel a little bit more like work than it has in the past.
Yeah, it's definitely a grind, man. And as an entrepreneur, you got to be able to wear multiple different hats. Like if you're really into graphic design and then your business partner is really into accounting, I mean, you guys can take on different roles, but you're going to have to do everything to run a business, you know? And that's when Austin and I started. We started mowing lawns, and then we were like, oh, this is pretty easy. Let's see if we can automate this process. And then we were like, shit, there's a lot of stuff we got to take care of. You know, we got to keep up on our accounting. We got to keep up on our marketing, our business plan. There's so many different aspects to it. And like we were talking about earlier in the podcast, sometimes it can be really overwhelming, but at the same time, it's pretty powerful too. So one thing I wanted to touch on too, it seems, I mean, pretty obvious from a listener's perspective, but the name Jitterz, I mean, what caused you guys to arrive at that name? Were there other names you were thinking of, or did somebody just say that was the name and then stuck with it?
Oh, I'll let Dean tell this story. This is his.
So whenever I would, I was always kind of like a squirmy kid, and my mom would call me she'd call me a bug sometimes, and she would call me like a jitterbug sometimes, and that's how she would call me when I get angsty. Be like, oh, you're getting your jitters on, you're getting your jitters on. It just eventually stuck with me. I'm like, that sounds good. That comes off the tongue right. It just sounds like a name that you can say, like Twitter, like Snapchat. It's something that just comes off. It's a few syllables, but it kind of gets to the point, kind of emphasizes what you're trying to solve here. Jitters we all have jitters. We all have anxiety. We all go through this, and our purpose is to help get past it together.
That's awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
That's
personally,
really cool.
I love the name, and it's simplicity. A lot of people, when they start businesses, they're thinking of the name, they're trying all these different things, even using AI for the ideation of it. But like you said, like all of the major companies out there, like Google, Amazon, Twitter, which is now X, like it's extremely simple. And obviously Elon Musk took that to the extreme by literally having it called one letter, just X. So I think it definitely rolls off the tongue, and just that backstory is super powerful too, because everybody experiences anxiety, whether they like to admit it or not. And it's one of those things, like it's kind of like a goofy name, you know, it's relatable, and that almost helps like break the ice in itself, you know, where people go on there, they're like, okay, like these people are on here because they're feeling the same feelings that I'm feeling, and they're looking to actually meet people. They're not just going on there trolling or whatever. And I love that idea behind it. I mean, it's perfect. It's nice and simple. And like you said, it rolls off the tongue. So that's awesome. And have you guys started working on like getting domains or anything for it yet? I mean, have you seen if there's availability?
We need to get the whole thing is we're like working on like securing funds. And so once we can secure funds, like hopefully with like the micro grant, or if we can do the innovation challenge, we can use that money and like go and purchase like the domain information and maybe get a trademark on our name or something like that.
That's kind of the beauty of our name too, though. It's like we can spell Jitterz kind of however we want to. We can throw 3 Z's on the end. We can have 3 T's in there. You know what I mean? Like if if we, www whatever we want is taken, like kind of the beauty of the name is like, it's not really a real word. I guess it's a word, but you can kind of spell that however you want. And you can play around with that to make it to
It's a slang term.
yeah, it's slang, exactly. So I think that's kind of unintentionally helped us too. It's like we're not super stressing about something like that because, like I said, we can play around with it however we want.
Yeah, that's awesome. And this is a little bit of a different question, but I just remember now because we were kind of having a conversation about it, and then it slipped my head. But you guys both are in the entrepreneurship school. Walk me back. Each of you probably have a different story for choosing that. Where did it start for you guys? Where did that entrepreneurial mindset, or just maybe the classes in general, just kind of spark your attention? And that's probably different for both of you, but
yeah. Do we go first?
You can go first.
I don't know. I just kind of had the realization. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do when I came into college. I was an exploratory major, which is Florida State's version of undecided. You don't really know what you're doing. I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I just kind of had the realization one day. I was at work, and I used to be an event manager for a catering company. And I was looking at the final bill that the clients were paying our company for our services. And I was like, wow, I'm seeing like 0.001% of this bill. After working like all these hours, I'm seeing like, that's maybe an exaggeration, but I'm seeing such a small percentage of this bill. And I just kind of had the realization, I was like, I don't want to work for anybody else. I don't want to clock in and clock out for the rest of my life. I don't want to have to work for anybody else for the rest of my life. I want to be my own boss, and I want to make my own decisions. And then I found the entrepreneurship program, and I was like, that's perfect for me. That's exactly the education that I need to, help me achieve my goal of being my own boss.
Yeah, definitely. And what about you, Dean?
So I decided to pick. I went to FSU because I heard about the new Jim Moran College of Entrepreneurship, and I heard about it, and it's what I chose FSU over UF because of it becoming a college, not just a school. And I've always been a very creative type. I like to design. I like to draw. I like to write. I like to do anything to get my brain into that like creative aspect, like that area where I can just throw anything on the paper. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad. I just want to keep making stuff. And that's what kind of make me want to do entrepreneurship, is because in the business world, in the entrepreneurial world, you can make your own business, you can make your own product, you can do what you want. And what kind of really inspired me is, I know it's going to be funny, but the Phil Swift guy from Flex Tape, that whole demeanor of him starting his own business, him being the face of his business, and him being his commercial, like that kind of just enticed me on wanting to become that person who starts their own business, who sells their own product, and is the face of their business.
Yeah, I love that. And at the end of the day, like you guys both said, it comes down to really that freedom and that creativity. Like those are two of my favorite aspects of entrepreneurship. Because one, you're not limited in what you want to do. Like the ideas are endless, and sometimes that can be a blessing and a curse, like Austin mentioned earlier. But you also have the freedom to, set your own schedule. You can choose who you want to talk to, hop on the podcast if you want to. And when you're working for somebody else, there's not really as much freedom or creativity that you can employ. So like you said with Phil Swift, like I love that guy. I remember growing up watching him saw the boats in half, like taping them together. I thought that was the most like cool thing. Like I wanted to go out and get a boat and try it. And it's just cool. Yeah. Exactly. But it's just cool seeing how different entrepreneurs learn to creatively market their products. And that's something that I'm excited for with Gas Money. Like we've done different advertising campaigns. Some have worked, some haven't. But there's no limit to how much you can innovate and how much you can create. And I think you guys are going to find that as well. Like it's a super fun journey, entrepreneurship in general. I fell in love with it when I got to college too, just for my own experiences doing Gas Money. But also it's one of those things that a lot of people make it seem easier than it is. And I'm sure you guys, like you had mentioned earlier, you're starting to realize like there's a lot of work that's involved. But at the end of the day, that payoff at the end, when you see your business, you've grown it, you've nurtured it. It's almost like a kid in a way. once you see it kind of flourishing and you become the faces of Jitterz, it's one of the most rewarding feelings in the world. So I'm happy for you guys. But yeah, I guess kind of starting to wrap it up a little bit too. Like as I mentioned before we started recording, a lot of our listeners are 16 to 24-year-olds, either in high school or college, starting to get into entrepreneurship, looking to create their own business. And I guess for you guys, if you want, we can start with Dean and then go to Anthony. If you had one piece of advice for a college student or high school student who's either looking to start their own business or have already started their own business, what would that be?
So my personal advice is whenever you have an idea, I would get like a spreadsheet, a document, something that you can save online or something you can have in like a piece of paper. Write down every idea you get. Put down a ton of bullet points under each idea and be able to describe how you can, what's the value, what is the way we're going to go about, what are the operations, and how can we monetize it, and what are the chances of it being successful. By like taking your ideas and segmenting them and actually testing, see if they actually you can actually validate your ideas into actual good business ideas. You have to constantly strain through those ideas, but you can't just ignore every idea or accept every idea. You have to go through each one.
Definitely. It's all about writing that down. And I think there's a quote out there somewhere, but when you actually write something down and organize your thoughts, you're way more likely to actually get it done than if you just think about it and then don't write it down. I mean, it's nice to get things on paper and take action steps. So super good advice. And then Anthony, if you had one piece of advice for college students, entrepreneurs, what would that be?
I don't know. I feel a little strange giving advice because I feel like I haven't really made it as an entrepreneur yet. You know what I mean? Like I'm still in the process myself, but I mean, I guess just from, the very first stages, any advice I could give is just, it's going to sound super cringy or super cliche, but like just believing in yourself. I feel like that's the most important thing you can possibly do. Like if you have an idea that you really like, no one out there is going to believe in you if you don't believe in yourself. If you can't communicate that idea with confidence and with passion, and no one else out there is going to want to hear what you got to say. So, if it's something that you're really passionate about, again, it might sound cliche, but just believing in yourself and just, convincing yourself that it's a good idea and convincing yourself that you can actually do it. Personally, that's gone the longest way for me.
Yeah, no matter how cliche that sounds, I think that holds true in any situation, especially in business or anything you want to do in life. If you can't confidently talk about it, like you were saying, or express just the feelings that you have about something, then nobody's going to believe that you actually have the passion for whatever it is, or that you're actually going to come close to accomplishing what you're talking about. So it all starts with believing in yourself, and then believing in that idea or whatever you're striving towards. And then, I think it really escalates that belief when you can have conversations with other people about it. I think another thing too with that we've talked about is the ability to be misunderstood. At the very beginning, that's going to happen a lot. I don't know unless you guys are really, really good at describing your idea, which obviously we understand it, maybe not as in depth as you guys are, but basically like being okay with that at the beginning, being okay with somebody not really understanding, what it is that you're doing, especially not at the level that you guys have, because that's going to be difficult until somebody gets that shit in their hands. And that's good. That's a really good way of not being discouraged that, maybe it's not a good idea. Actually, they just haven't really seen what we're going to create yet. So it's just continuing down that road, and I think you guys are going to do great. This is a super cool idea, by the way. We've talked to a couple people that have built apps that were similar, but more of like travel apps and stuff like that. And even if there are similarities, that's just validation that your idea is valid. So just keep pushing forward. And thanks for coming on, guys. Rob, I guess, did I forget it? Yeah. Socials. You guys don't have any socials for the business yet, is that right?
No, we do. We have an Instagram account.
Okay, yeah, go ahead and shout it out if people are trying to connect with you, learn some more.
Yeah, at Jitterz, so JITTERZ .social on Instagram.
Perfect. Awesome. And then, yeah, once you guys get the website and everything, we can update the description, put the website down there for any listeners who want to learn more. And then I'm super excited for you guys once you get it launched and just kind of keep progressing with the business. We'll definitely have to get you back on, do kind of an update check. And then at that point too, I know, Anthony, you said it is kind of awkward. I mean, when you're first starting out with something, not feeling like an expert, still having a lot to learn, giving advice. But I mean, just in your guys' perspective, just being college students who are trying to do something greater than them, especially in entrepreneurship. I mean, anybody in that position would love to hear advice. And you did a great job of explaining it, but it would be awesome to get you guys back on maybe in a couple months once you're further ahead and kind of see how things been going. So thank you both for hopping on, by the way.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
It's been a good time. Good conversation.
Yeah. Definitely. So for all the listeners out there, if you enjoyed, feel free to give our podcast a rating, hit that notifications button. And like we always say at the end of our podcast, go get that gas.
Go get that gas money.